you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability? Well, Jonette, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on. I guess to begin with, just tell me, was there anything when you were younger, was there any gifts that you had then that you was aware of, or you can look back and say, you know, what I have now was somewhere in my past?
You know, that's a good question, and most people don't ask that. As a young girl, I would get playing cards and do readings with them. I didn't know what tarot cards were, but I would make up things. And later I realized that what I was making up was true. And I did these ESP, there were ESP games back then, and I was really good at ESP. But, you know, that was just children's games. So I was in my mid-30s before I had a transcendental, multidimensional experience, and I go, oh, there's more to this.
So was there anyone else in the family that recognized that you had any particular gifts, in a sense? Did Mum recognize that?
Well, Mum was pretty weirded out when my brother and I always got 95% on these ESP tests when we were trying to guess about colors and shapes from each other.
Wow. So was there anyone else in the family that you had discovered in the end that had any particular gifts?
No, but it's an Irish Catholic family, and so there's often a lot of psychic ability in the Celtic, in that background, and also Native American.
Absolutely there is. So what career did you have at the time before this awakening happened?
So I was a computer consultant living in Australia. So here I'm a Colorado girl, and it really happened while I was in Australia and hiking in this beautiful woods. And as I was hiking, this other dimension opened up, and I went into that dimension even as I was hiking in the physical world. And there was a woman sitting on a stone, and she was light. She had long silver hair, dressed in white, just sitting there, peace itself. And she beckoned me to come over and to put my backpack down, because I was backpacking. And she said, she just filled me with love. And then she says, okay, be gone, time to go. And I went to pick up my backpack in her reality. And she says, oh, no, on this journey, you can't take anything with you. And I'm going, yeah, but I don't have much. You know, it's a little stove, a little bed. And she said, no. And then I was kind of miffed at this spirit lady. So I said, well, you know, at least tell me which way to go if I'm supposed to walk through the forest. And she said, no, you make your path by walking. And then I walked out of that dimension. I always wondered who she was. 30 years later, I realized she was White Buffalo Calf Woman. But that was my first interdimensional experience, and really first channeling, because she telepathically talked to me. But her message, because everyone's always looking for a path, where's my mission? What's my goal? What's my path? And it was very clear that you only see the path from behind, and that it doesn't look like a path. We just walk, and then it is our path. So that really set me on as an explorer of where are spirits? How do they work? How do they communicate to me? How can we bring them into our life, and how does it fit the computer world?
Oh, yeah. Were you reading any sort of spiritual textbooks at the time, or had done?
No. I was always looking for something spiritual, but I didn't think I'd find it in Australia necessarily.
Why were you looking?
I was, so as a kid I would read, way before Seth, so I would read Castaneda and Siddhartha and those books that came out in the early 70s. So kind of looking for an alternative religion, I thought. That was maybe more broad than my Catholicism. But then I realized it wasn't a religion I wanted at all. It was more broad than religion.
Well, religion could be broad, then it would be okay.
So we keep narrowing it down.
Yeah, most religions are really narrowed down into one set of truth. So when you was with this angelic being, or this however you want to term it,
spirit lady, I called her.
Spirit lady. Then, how did you know she was a spirit lady in that moment?
Because she was unreal. She was totally in another dimension, but I could see her. It was the strangest thing. I had never done drugs, and there I was. I really walked into like a portal into this other world, and I'm split screen. I'm here walking in Australia, and I'm in this world talking telepathically to the spirit woman. She was so real.
And it didn't kind of freak you out that what the heck is that?
No, because it was so beautiful, and I'm always curious. Nothing freaks me out, because if you tend to being freaked out, then you're going to limit your curiosity, and your curiosity is what gives you everything. Or for me, constantly asking questions is what brings me to the next door and the next door and the next door.
So you had this amazing experience. What was transformative in your life then? What was you transforming once you had that experience? Was it everything stayed the same, or were you then on a path?
So then I thought it would be a good idea to meditate. And I was a terrible meditator, like most Western people, because I couldn't be quiet. And a girlfriend said, it's much easier in a group. I go, okay, because I'm really bad. So I went to a spiritualist church because they had Wednesday night meditation classes. Fine. It was easier in a group. It was so easy to get to those spaces. And the teachers picked me for this advanced channeling class. I didn't know what channeling was. And I said, no, I'm here for remedial meditation. And the teachers could see that I had a gift. So they plopped me in this group of people that had been meeting weekly forever. And they were all learning to channel. They were making sounds from their mouth. And I go, this is just unusual. But then one day, I started talking, and so again, split screen. I hear myself say something, and I go, I don't feel anything. I'm sure this is a lie. And then I would see things, and then they would come true. So that kind of freaked me out. But what really got me, I guess, on the path is in one of those times where I was trying to meditate, an American Indian came into my field of vision in the meditation. Clearly white feathers, wearing white. And I thought, oh, maybe he's my spirit guide. So I asked him his name, and I guessed white feather, white cloud. They were wrong. So he turned into the bust of a white eagle. And I go, okay, you're trying to tell me your name is White Eagle. The whole exchange took 1 minute, and it was just some of the stuff that happens in meditation. I didn't tell anyone. And the next week, one of my meditation, the women in the class, she said, I found this book for you. And I unwrap it because it was wrapped as a gift, and it was a small blue book called The Quiet Mind, The Teachings of White Eagle. And I go, ha, ha, and the hair on my neck stands up. And I go, I don't know who this White Eagle dude is, but he came to me clearly. And I didn't read the book, and then I went to Africa for 6 months camping and traveling. And I would sit in my tent and say, all right, White Eagle, come. And I would feel his loving presence. I never saw him again, but I didn't need to. Now I had this feeling sense of what that connection was. And it was a year after that I started speaking. I had a tape recorder, and I thought, well, if he's here, I'm going to see if I can channel. Had a tape recorder by myself, and I recorded this address that was clearly to a lot of people. It wasn't to me. It wasn't, I was going to ask, should I eat fish? Should I be vegan? And he didn't care. He was talking to masses. And I go, holy cow, I guess he wants me to channel in public. My family was Catholic. I only knew computer consulting people. I didn't know anybody on this path. So I found somebody who knew Edgar Casey and didn't think I was crazy, and she really supported me in doing it publicly and then really expanding it. So it was really step by step. It certainly wasn't planned. It was all fortuitous.
And do you think that initial quote that you got, that saying from that being that you met, and the saying was,
you make your path by walking.
Do you think you've applied that to your life?
Every day. Because I don't look for a path to follow. And I just say, what would be fun? What would satisfy my curiosity? What questions can I ask? And that's what brought a second guide after White Eagle, because once I started channeling White Eagle, I wanted to read all the physics books. How does this fit in my scientific mind? And then this being popped in and basically said, I hear your questions. I've come in the response to all the questions people are asking, and I want to teach you how to live beyond dimensions. And that was in 1989, and so almost 30 years later, I'm still doing that.
What's that process been like? I mean, has it been tough at some times to go on this path?
Yes, I think in the beginning it was tough because I knew no one, and now all my friends are weird and they believe this, but then nobody did. And reading books was so helpful, and now there's YouTube, there's so many ways to get confirmation on your path. And I think the hardest times were when I first started channeling Mark, and he was talking about the nature of gravity and relativity and things that, I would read these New Age physics books, but I'm not a physicist. And so it was really hard to let myself say things that were way beyond my comprehension. And then I realized later that they were true, that how he explained DNA, 10 years later, that's what the scientists were saying. So after I got over that I can't challenge and I can't know what's coming out of my mouth, then it's easier.
So when you walk in that path and you're just kind of flowing, you're walking forward, are you kind of planning anything? Are you saying that, okay, I want to go out there, I know what I want to do, and I'm going to put my positive thinking, or not positive thinking, but my attention to that which I want to pull to me?
I don't really. I have an MBA and was a business consultant, and we had 3-year plans and 5-year plans. Now I have a 1-year plan because I have such a busy schedule. But what I've noticed, Kevin, and that's a great question, is the more comprehensive I get at these higher worlds. So now I'm not just channeling words, because words are pointers. They're not the journey. The journey is a field generally, a field that you can feel and experience. And once I'm there, I become magnetic to what's good, and I become anti-magnetic to what's bad. And so I don't plan so much, but I receive, and things drop into me, and I follow the little strings that show themselves. So that's been something to give up, is planning and also being driven toward a goal. My gosh, I was always goal driven. Now I'm more living in the present, exploring in 360 degrees, and the path changes all the time. But it's so rich and so full and so unbelievably fulfilling.
But what about that, I've got this kind of passion and I want to go for that. This is what I want to try to do next. You're not even going from that space.
I guess I am, because when I first channeled, I put out a flyer and then I thought, oh, maybe I better have a weekly class in a bookstore. So that passion grew, and then things happened and I wrote a book, and then things really opened up because the book became really popular in lots of countries. So yeah, but the passion had to be there. Yeah.
Do you think sometimes we have to do things that we don't really want to do, but we just have to do them, because otherwise how are we going to get to where we want to get to?
That's absolutely true. And it's not all light and roses. Sometimes you have to make the hardest decisions, breaking up relationships, leaving a job that's secure. But or sitting there doing your emails and doing your taxes and putting together your whatever, all of that. But that's all part of the path too. I know people complain, they go, oh, I don't want to be doing this, I want to be doing my healing. But it's all that. Our life is our path, not just when we're healing or channeling or teaching. We are our message all the time. Yeah. Not just when we say something or we channel beautiful art. I have to live my message.
I always say, we're here to have a human experience, and most spiritual people want to just live in high vibration and ignore everything else. I mean, it's just so sickening.
And when you bring those high vibrations here, you manifest so easily. And people go, no, how do you? You're just special. No. I don't sit on my bum. I do things when the inspiration comes, and I work really hard. But it's still magical.
Obviously, your teachings are bound to be different from others.
Yeah.
How does anyone decipher in all of this information when they meet different channelers? What is right, what is not? Because I've met 45 plus, and they've all got a different message.
I believe there's only one wisdom, and the messages are filters for that person, that day, where they are in that life. So, if you want to say, who do you follow? First the person who's the messenger, because, none of us are pure channels. The channeling is a conglomeration of us and how well we translate what we're getting. So pick a person you feel comfortable with and you like who they are. Then take what's important to you, because they may be talking about things that you don't care about. Then that's not your message. And what I try to tell people is, don't try to say, well, one person says this about ETs and the other says this about dimensions, and how does it all fit? Don't worry about it. It doesn't ever, ultimately it does all fit. And there's no one answer, one path. I have a very eclectic belief system, and some of my beliefs are mutually exclusive of each other. And that makes me bigger, because I can hold opposites and not have to have one be right and one be wrong.
So these are, highly developed spiritual entities that are coming through. I'm just using words here. It's not even that, right? And they've been through something more than where we are now, or they remember something more than where we are now. Yeah, they remember their greater part of themselves, maybe. Mm-hmm. But they're all with mixed messages, even with what you've said there. But it's all true, because maybe they're in different truths. They're in different truths.
We could have the same meal and you would talk about it differently than I do, but my meal was still my meal and yours was yours. Yeah, so we shouldn't look for it. That person has truth and that makes them wrong. Because as soon as we judge anything wrong, I just say, that doesn't feel correct or helpful to me. But it might be very true for someone else. I no longer have to sort it out. What feels good for you at the moment, and be ready to outgrow your teachers. Because I read books that helped me early on the path, and now I read them and I go, those were very helpful, but they would keep me small if I still believed them now.
It's difficult, I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I'm not after any scientific results in this, right? And it's not about that, yeah. My truth is I'm a soul having a human experience. That's all I know to be true, right? But anything else, it's, what do I believe in? But, you know, if we do create our own reality, then obviously where we end up, it matters not if you have a different truth, because if we create that reality when we cross over, then maybe we're creating a reality that works for us at that moment, wherever our awareness is when we've moved on.
I think it's whatever makes us the better person at this moment. Does this truth expand me and make me better and happier, or does it make me feel suspicious and paranoid or whatever? So I always look for pathways that open more doors. I always look for truths that are expansive, belief systems that open the possibilities in the field rather than condense them or separate them.
Okay.
Because it feels better for me.
Of course it does, yeah, of course. What is Mark's main teaching?
So he's an interesting non-dude. He said he's cosmic, he's never been in a physical universe. So that means, I can't say, oh, he's from Arcturus. He's not from the physical plane at all. And he said when he came in '89 that he wanted to help me break through different dimensions so we could know that potential that we call God. And so then he started giving us experiments, mental mind experiments. All right, put your attention in this tree. Now put it here. So we began to be fluid with our awareness. And this is meeting once a week for 30 years. And then about 15 years ago, he said, now I want to explain how the higher worlds are structured, because they are structured. There's algorithms, there's mathematics, and he said, we're going to take you step by step through these steps. We're going to make them feel linear, but dimensions are not linear. They're all, you can't take the second dimension out of me and have me exist. So he's given us experiences that change the structure of our consciousness, basically update our software so that we can receive more. So the first spaces were spaces of energy and electricity, so it increased our frequency. And that's what most people talk about. Let's get a high vibe or a high frequency. But for Mark, that's only the fourth dimension. That's still a very low dimension. And then he moved us, he goes, really, frequencies are organized and orchestrated by sacred geometry, by mathematics. So he said the fifth dimension that actually organizes energy is mathematics or geometry, or symbols or codes. Okay, I get that. And then once we kind of experienced that, so the group had to experience it and get stable, then he said, now you're ready for the sixth dimension. And that was like nirvana, heaven. I felt that this was what everyone was looking for in enlightenment. Expansive oneness, beautiful, a space of being, you can't do anything, just bliss. And I could stay there forever. And we stabilized it. It probably took 2 years of weekly meetings before he felt we were safe enough. And he goes, now, the first 6 dimensions are in a totally different plane than 7, 8, and 9. Are you ready for 7? And I go, I like 6. And the 7th dimension was to teach us how to have a holographic experience, not just think that we're everywhere. Oh yeah, I'm everywhere, and I'm pieces of universe everywhere. But actually be able to leave your singularity and immediately know yourself as being sourced through all time and space. So Mark tells us that, but basically he sets up fields until we get it, till we lock in and something about our neurology gets it and we're rewired. So now we are seventh dimensional beings because we totally know how to be holographic and know it not intellectually, but you know, when I sit down to meditate, I'm not here, I am everywhere. And I can't go back. So once you get to these dimensions, you really don't fall out. They're permanently rewired.
Even in the human form as well?
Absolutely in the human form, because we are the translator. We're the computer box. So what Mark's doing is giving us, you know, version 2.5 and 2.6, giving us higher versions of consciousness, awareness, so that, because these dimensions are always there, but we didn't have the mental setup or the cognitive setup to take them in. So he's giving us a structure of what's that setup, what's, you know, after holographic, there's quantum. Well, how does it feel to have quantum consciousness? And now I can go to quantum consciousness in a second, but what my gift is, and what the gift of all of us is we create a field. You know, if I'm in quantum consciousness and I have 30 people, they're there in 1 minute, because it's a contagious field, shared field. And people who've never meditated before are also in a state of quantum consciousness. They may not feel so much because their receptors aren't open yet. But yeah, so what I've realized is the steps to enlightenment are structured. You know, our universe is structured according to sacred laws. And so I'm just kind of figuring out the sacred laws that give me higher and higher experiences that are transferable.
What does that mean, though, in day-to-day living? What does that equal to someone's life now?
It means we are not locked into this life and our suffering and our struggles. We have a bigger picture, and it's not just a picture, it's we have a bigger place we know we are. And from that bigger place, and everything we do is grounded. So I used to fly off and meditate, and now I start in my heart. So these wild meditations take place here. So what does it do? People are more alive, more compassionate, more connected. Mark calls it uncaused well-being. I'm not happy because my house is clean. I'm happy because I'm happy. So it changes us into enlightened beings, irrespective of the cause.
And Mark teaches you how to get to these different levels?
Yes, he takes us there. He throws us in the deep end of the pool, and basically he's got this space that he holds, and 5 minutes later he notices if we're swimming or not in these new spaces. So what my group's doing, because I'm a kind of spiritual Indiana Jones, is my job, because I can and I love it, is to kind of go to the outer reaches where humans haven't navigated consciousness before, and build stones in the river so that other people can go without having to make the journey. They just leapfrog onto those stones that are there. So I'm trying to build stability in the higher consciousness so that the tipping point can just happen and people don't have to work. They don't have to follow it all. It just is there because we all have a shared consciousness.
So is that the same as we create our reality in a way?
We get confused when we say we create our reality because we think the we is me, personally. And you wonder, well, why did I create a reality where my husband's sick or my kid's sick? Well, it's a shared reality. Yes, we are bigger than the personal self, and the bigger we does create our reality, and our perceptual filters create our reality. So what Mark teaches us is to have very different perceptual filters and how to change them, how to pick from quantum worlds that are much better. sometimes, let me give you an experience. Mark takes us to, he calls the quantum void. And he says, I don't want you to choose what you want. You know, I want a soulmate, I want this. He goes, you just find this door in this quantum world or this light, follow that, and just connect with that light. Just be one with that vibration, whatever it is, without trying to figure out what it is. And I did that the first time and it felt so nice. And then the class was still meditating and I was kind of done. So I wanted to figure out what that light was. So I go, Mark, that felt really good, that light that I was connecting to. What was it? Was it a new car? And Mark goes, it wasn't a new car, Jonette. I go, oh, a new house. It's not a new house, Jonette. A boyfriend? So I ask all these questions, and then I can't think of anything that it could possibly be. And I say, well, then what was it? And Mark goes, a new life. And I'm realizing I would have been happy with a new car, and the cosmos wanted to give me a new life. So I now teach people, don't necessarily decide what you want. Find the highest energy field you can hold, connect to it, imbibe with it, and then it will make everything happen.
But how do you connect with the energy?
Through imagination, really. Get yourself to a high space, always from your heart. I mean, I have meditations in getting to quantum consciousness, but...
so you would imagine what you want, or you would like to experience, no?
I would go into my heart, get to as high as I could, and say, I just want to feel the highest potentials without knowing details, because I'll screw it up if I know details. So the potentials might feel like rainbows or stars, or for me it was this big light, whatever it is. And then become one with the energy of that ultimate potential without knowing anything about what it is, when it'll come, but you already bring it into your field.
So that was me then. So I'm saying, right, forget about what I want to create. Go into some higher meditative state where at least you're able just to feel something that feels really good. Go into that space, and something's going to make itself known to you, what it is that's kind of being pulled towards you.
Well, I mean, we did this in a group meditation when we were channeling, so it was kind of directed. But let me go back. Don't let go with what you want. But when you go to a high space, that's going to be higher than what you can conceive you want. So in our world, we should want what we want. You want this documentary to be successful. You want that. Fine, hold those. But once in a while, get beyond your wants and go to the endless infinity that the universe wants to give you. Because it might be bigger than you can imagine.
What is channeling, I mean, to you? I mean, what?
It's about pulling in from higher sources, wisdom, energy, words. But for me now, I mostly channel spaces and fields and initiatory fields. I can go into a trance, and I've tested my brain waves and other people's brain waves. Their brain waves change because they entrain with the trance that I'm in, and their right brain opens up, which is our creative brain, and there begins to be big waves on their EKG that shows that their whole brain is being cohesive. So I channel states that are, you know, there's words too, but that people's mental software pick up on, and they can go to these states and have them programmed in themselves as well. So there's no words, it's way beyond words. So there's more than words to channeling.
So your take on it then, for you, for channeling,
It's a tool, it's not a goal.
Okay, then with this tool then, are you able then to ask it any question you want with whatever issue that you might have in the present moment?
I could. My being Mark doesn't care so much about whether I should eat cheese or not. So I figure out all my life things. I do readings for other people because it's easier to do readings for someone I don't know than my own opinion. So yes, I mean, I often get answers, and it's intuitive, but I don't say that's an answer from Mark. It's just coming through the channel that I now have.
My organization to show people that it's like a funnel. The greater part of us is at the top. It's funneled down to the human experience, and all you're doing on your channel is you're opening up to that larger part of yourself.
And it becomes, and you lose what your self is. Your self is kind of a definition in the 3D world, and yourself, our self, all selves begin to merge at the higher ends of that funnel. There's no, you don't find me there, I there so much.
What does Mark say the reason for us coming here is?
Humans, or are you guys coming here for this documentary?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good question. Why are we here? No, for having a human experience. Why are we doing this?
I just learned this in the last 3 weeks. I've channeled this just in this year, is that humans have what the spirits call evolutionary consciousness. They said that there used to be many civilizations in the stars who had the ability that your consciousness evolves, not just your civilization, but the consciousness evolves. And that consciousness then evolves all consciousness. He said there's some consciousness that's static, and maybe it's artificial intelligence or some ET's consciousness that isn't evolutionary. So they're very interested in us humans because we have evolutionary consciousness that not only evolves humans, but evolves consciousness itself, which then evolves galaxies and universes. So we're of very great interest and importance. And why did we come? Because we wanted to evolve.
Nothing better to do.
There's no more fun game in the universe.
You know, in my last channeler yesterday, he said there is no point to any event. It's just to have experience.
Yeah. But the experience evolves. We are in a creative universe, the Big Bang, and everything's created since then. So everything evolves, everything creates. We create experiences that create realities.
But then there's a lot of people out there, isn't there, that will never come across this material. And
they don't need it.
No.
No. Because those of us who want to evolve will, the rising tide lifts all boats. It will lift everyone, and it doesn't matter if you were more interested in watching football on TV. So I no longer have a judgment about people who aren't spiritual. They don't need to be.
No.
They're doing the best they can.
But they're still going back to the same places where we're going to go back to. We're all ending back at the same destination, aren't we?
Because ultimately, at the point of the destination, we aren't separate. The allness is already at that destination. The more I spend in these higher planes, the more I see that we're so interconnected. In a beautiful dance.
What drives you, though, to want to do this work?
Because it's more fun than computer consulting. Because it's fun. I mean, what gets me up every morning is every day I get to discover things. When I do personal readings, I discover things because the answers are extraordinary. They're not just, yeah, you lived in Atlantis. They are, all right, let's go to Atlantis and change this. We're walking between times and dimensions now. So I think it's extraordinary. I mean, why are we called? You know, if the world gets saved, if the world is a better place because of what I do, fine. But I would do it because it's so fun and I can't think of anything I'd rather do. And that's a calling, you know, your calling. That's what gets us up in the morning.
But it used to get me up, but now I'm like, what am I doing this for? Because it's not really my responsibility to help anyone, you know, get to get to see that this is true or not. I mean, you can't prove any of this anyway, can you?
Is it fun? Mostly.
Mostly. Thanks for putting those in my mouth there.
Yeah. It's never all fun.
Yeah. I think it's part of my calling. I don't think it's the total thing. I think if I was to chop it up in half, this would be half of it.
A calling is a mosaic, and it moves around, and sometimes it leapfrogs. It's not non-sequential paths you end up taking.
Is what you do, is it helping people?
Absolutely. I get emails every day, and it's bringing the scope of the universe into our hearts and making our hearts more universal. And in that, we're healthier, we're happier, we're kinder people. We don't worry so much. I had a person, she said, I've always worried, and I couldn't find the switch to turn it off. And she said, after last Monday's meditation, the fear, the anxiety is gone. So we're lifting above where all our pressures and anxieties are, because there are worlds of truth, there are worlds of peace, and they're reachable by all of us.
Would it matter if none of this was true?
Truth is relative. You know, it was true that there was Santa Claus when you were 6. That was true. So truth is made to be outgrown when you get greater truths. So I don't ever stick to truths too much, because they'll keep me from growing. I'm ready for the greater one and the greater one.
What would science say about that? Because science would be like, if it's not repeatable, it's not true.
Yeah, I don't think the universe is necessarily repeatable.
No. No, when you consider...
And it's so quantum. You know, how do you explain miracles? How do you explain these stories? They can't be explained by science, but they're real.
Yes, to the people that have had them there. Absolutely, they are 100%, yeah. When did Mark come to you then? What was it?
89. I was sitting with my tape recorder.
Yeah, so that was 89, yeah. Just
a long time ago. And 87 was the harmonic convergence. And so many people opened up after, I think it was 87, after 87. So...
I think you just fried my brain with the way, with what you've said there. It was beyond my comprehension. I'll just be honest.
Just people are opening up, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when I've been on this journey, others channel... You are a channel for those who align with your work or are called to you.
So, yeah, people are called to me because they like what I channel. I'm going to channel what I channel, and it's going to attract the right people or not.
Yeah.
And because, you know, I did one of these telesummits once, and I didn't get very many people buying my packages. And I had a consultant. She said, Jonette, you were really good, but you didn't talk about money, finding the love of your life, or weight loss. And she says, that's what people are looking for. I go, yeah, well, that's not what I'm delivering. So, you know, people need different levels and different truths.
What is the most important message that you deliver then?
I guess for people to have their existential, transcendental experiences while they're in their body, to no longer put spirit here and this is my normal life, but pull yourself together. You are a spiritual being. Everything you live is spiritual. And then when you have these high experiences, it changes your life because you're having them here, not out in nirvana. So I think we've separated spirit from matter too long, and that separation is costing us everything.
Do you think that by embracing some of these subjects that we've been talking about today, you can live a more fulfilled, happy, joy-filled, loving life towards yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the point. You know, why be here in this human experience if you don't love it? Okay, I'm ready.
Well, hello, Mark.
Welcome.
And what is your karmic relationship then here? Why are you here?
We are here as proof of the creation in the multidimensional universe. We do not exist except when we interact with you. We come from nothing, and we come because there is a need for knowledge or communication or growth, and that seeking on your part creates us out of nothing. And when you're not seeking or interacting, we go back into nothing. So we are a relative or a relational guide who's here in relationship to the needs. And it is not karmic because we live in a place way beyond karma.
Why this particular human are you coming through? Why this individual?
She agreed a long time ago to be a voice for higher consciousness. She didn't know what that would be, and so she's been trained for many lifetimes to be a door opener.
That's incredible that you say that from nothingness we bring you into creation. Then who's the God in a sense then?
God is everywhere. So the universe is spontaneously created at every moment. So we don't exist waiting for some humans to call and ask us questions. We go back into the amorphic field of potentiality when there's no work to be done, when there's no relationship to be had. We're not an identity that's static. So we're not a normal guide or angel who exists all of the time. We exist on an as-needed basis.
That just fries my tiny human brain.
Well, and it's not important because when you need us, we're here and we're exactly the same as beings who have identities all the time. But we want you to realize that your calling and asking creates us, which means your searching creates the answers. And that's what's true everywhere.
Are you calling and creating anyone else out there?
Yes, we work with our name Mark, and we do come in other groups and other people, sometimes with other names because our name isn't so important.
So if we're calling you, you're calling others?
No, others might be calling others. If you're calling us, you're calling us, but we have many aspects because we are wisdom that wants to be communicated to humanity now.
Who's creating who, though?
That's how the universe works. Everything is co-creative. You're creating us, we're creating you. We are here to teach that the world is created instantaneously and there's not just one world.
Not just one world.
There's many universes of infinite potential. And you all live in a snippet of a potential, but you can expand those potentials by expanding your bandwidth. So we're here to help people expand their bandwidth so they have more download capacity, to use words you understand.
Do we get to experience any of those other realities?
The gifted ones can. Those realities are open, but there's been such a disconnect between very alternate realities and your reality that people who experience them might often end up in mental hospitals. So right now, only gifted ones can move back and forth into other realities.
Could I ask you to see if that, or connect to an aspect of me on another reality? Is that possible?
We would need to have a purpose or a search word, because there are so many aspects of you in different realities. We would need to have a reason to look. So if you had a specific thing you were looking for, we could find it.
Is there much difference between what we're up to now and the other reality versions of us in some respects? Is it just very tiny differences?
In some realities, what you think of as you, you're not. So there would be big differences. So you would still have some soul qualities, but you might not be a specific individuated consciousness. You might be a more group consciousness that still is imbued with the soul qualities that you call you. So those realities would be very different. And if you keep your you-ness, your individuality, then the realities you would be part of are more likely to be earth-based. You know, future earth incarnations, past earth incarnations.
Is there any incarnations where this particular time now is being lived out somewhere else as well, but just something's different? You know, the soul, my soul, or a portion of my soul is having a different experience? Am I sat over there rather than being sat here and asking different questions?
Those are potentials. There's infinite potential realities. They become real realities when you put your awareness there. So there could be a potential reality where you're sitting here, but your awareness is here, so you don't waste your time in those potential realities. Yes.
What is the most important message you come here with then?
Humans have been imprisoned in a limited structure of consciousness, one based on duality that ends up in conflict and competition. That is one potential reality that Earth has embraced. But there are whole other realities based on oneness and appreciation and no conflict and really an understanding of allness. And that reality is reachable. It's just bridging these two together, vibrationally, consciousness. So we're here trying to unlock humans out of the rat race. They keep repeating that there are greater realities and they are reachable. They are choosable, and it begins by people waking up and saying, no more of this, and embracing this heart space. And then there begins to be a field that begins to be a tipping point. And it's where this higher world kind of pours into the world we have now. That's a way to look at it. And eventually the lower strata of suffering begins to fall away as this whole vibrational new mix lifts and lifts. So it won't be all of a sudden there's enlightenment in the planets like in some new movie. But as the opportunity opens up, some of the heavier density falls away. And we're seeing it that first the heavy density shows itself, because when things are hidden, they can't be healed. So we see a lot of corrosiveness showing itself in humanity now, and it's not a time to lament. It's a time to say, at least the hatred or the darkness is showing itself. That's the first step in wiping it clean with these new vibrations. And how do we do it? Personally. One person at a time, loving themselves, finding joy or at least well-being in their life, finding their passion, living whatever it is they want to do, being happy. That lifts the vibration and creates a higher field. That field begins to be evolutionary. It begins to be magnetic and bring more and more that empowers the field and less of what empowered the old. So humanity is at a tipping point. And as much as 30 years ago, it wasn't known by all the star beings if humanity would make it. There was a very clear chance that humanity would roll into destruction. Now, probably over the past 5 years, we and all the star councils see that humanity has dodged that bullet. And ultimate destruction is not in the cards anymore. So it's just, how are we going to enlighten this planet?
Why do you care to come through?
Because the whole universe is intertwined, and humanity is an important game right now. It's the biggest show around, because it has evolutionary consciousness, and because what it does, because the emotionality of humans, it touches civilizations of star beings who've lost their emotionality and lost their connection to true heart-centered love. Humans have it. They're not always using heart-centered love, but because they have that ability, the changes can and will happen.
But why are we the only game in town to be so special to have that experience then?
For all kinds of reasons. This planet has been a colony of experimentation of different DNA, but the one thing humanity has had that some of the scientific ETs don't is heart and emotion. And that is something that connects the universe in a way that technology doesn't, in a way that many of these civilizations have lost. And so many civilizations are looking to us, saying, how can we bring our heart-centeredness and not kill ourselves with it, because we have free will, blend it with technology, higher technology, so that we can finally live in grace? We're of great interest. We're unpredictable. We humans are unpredictable.
Yes. Yeah. But we chose to come here? We chose to have this experience?
Individuals absolutely chose.
Why?
Most of you who are here now, who are awake, came because you knew this was a crucible time. This was a change time, a nexus point. And so you knocked other people out of the waiting line and said, I'm coming to Earth, I don't care. I know it'll be hard those first 20 years or whatever. And you came anyway. So you're usually change agents. The ones who are coming now, and especially the ones who follow you or ask questions like you ask, are programmed with a bigger picture. You can't see it and you can't see how to get there, but you're not going to let go of that program, that bigger picture sense that it can be better. And you come in with that overlay.
The world can be better. Humanity
that the world,
can be better.
That you can be happier and humanity can be better. You have that imprint.
Are most humans unhappy?
That is a very good question. Humans are an enigma. We would say humans are a mix. Even the happiest ones have unhappy times, and even the unhappy ones have this unique ability to get with their loved ones, to be at a wedding, and to be happy. So even in the direst times, humans do find happiness.
Did we come down here to be so unhappy?
No. You came down here to transform unhappiness into happiness.
Without the ability to remember anything of who we truly are.
It's tough, isn't it?
It sucks.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Then it's almost like it gets you to the point of, well, why bother? But then that's a silly question sometimes. But it does tend for most humans to lead to that point because they're not looking into these subjects. Most people, they've gone down that road of why bother. I may as well just live in the physical world and never question it beyond that.
And that's fine and safe for the people who need to live there. But the people who have a higher perspective or want to have a higher perspective, you wouldn't be happy unless you were looking for it. There are some people who are explorers, there are some people who challenge reality, and there's others who just live in their box. There's room for all of you. And the ones in their box are fine. They're safe.
Yeah, because they may find happiness through other means, it's not one path fits all. I mean, what if a happiness for one person is great amounts of wealth, great amounts of giving back, and great amounts of continued creation of opportunities and money.
And another, it's just ice fishing or fishing as long as they want. That's their happiness. And who is anyone to say that there's more than one ticket to happiness? But you wouldn't be happy if you weren't exploring. Jonette wouldn't be happy if she wasn't exploring.
Yeah, so that person fishing, is it an easier life of happiness through those means than to have to come to this way of trying to find happiness, to explore this idea that we're exploring now?
The fisherman wouldn't say it's easier because he had to work all week to be able to go to the river and fish. So
what you're offering is a constant, eternal path to happiness.
There is happiness, and then there is no longer a path to it. Happiness is always there, but humans are so structured for duality and struggle and struggle that you don't deserve happiness, and that happiness has to have a material value. So the guides and angels are here to remind you that happy's there to be cashed in now. And it doesn't require to have the truth to be happy. It doesn't require to be healthy to be happy.
Why can't we find that without you, though? Why wasn't that given to us without this?
The great beings have tried so many times. They've come to the Native Americans, they've come to the ancient ones, they've come to the Egyptians, they've come to the Jewish people. So great teachers have always been coming to try to get people to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
The opening now, why more people are channeling and opening to that, is there's no longer the cloister or the monastery, that only these people are spiritual and have spiritual gifts. That's the start of the opening, where people are embracing their own connection to God and higher truth. And that's wonderful. So supporting channeling supports opening.
I think it does, for my truth as well. I think it does. I think channeling allows you, and to me it's just a voice now, it's just my choosing obviously, just to hear a voice in the side of my head, and then I'll repeat it, and then it comes into sync sometimes. But I know it's there when I want to call on it. I've not wanted to call on it just recently. I've wanted to sort this out myself.
And that's fair enough.
But that voice we've all got, haven't we?
And some have squelched it for so long that it's barely audible. But we all have it, of course. We're all brilliant beings, none greater than the other.
Where could channeling go to in the future if it was given a platform for something more? What could it do for humanity?
Out of the comfort of small selfness into, and channeling may be the first gateway into a greater self and greater reason, but then that gateway is just a starter gate. Then there may be many other gateways that don't look like channeling. So it's a great starter gate to open the small you to a greater you and to greater beings. And then the transformation happens. It's not just about getting information and guidance. It's about letting those guide you to transformation, whatever it is for you. Evolution, transcendence.
And other people's evolution transcending doesn't need to be through channeling. It could be through some other means as well.
Some people have their greatest transformation through illness or loss. So one size does not fit all.
Well, we're trying to do it from a bit less of a smack over the head.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. But then it's, some people's perception of you coming through creates the illusion that it's not worthy of being listened to because this is a craziness of some other part of the brain that's coming through. But if it is even that, it's more wiser than what was there without it.
So people always ask, well, how can I tell if it's my guide or my higher self or just me? And I said, well, it really doesn't matter where it comes from. Is it good advice and does it feel good? So, people say, well, is that you or Mark? It doesn't matter. Is it good advice? You judge the tree by its fruit, not by the name of the tree. So we don't want people to honor these beings and give all their energy to Melchizedek or whatever great names are coming through. That they're coming through just to train you, that you have an open gate, and after that, just leave your gate open. And it's your own wisdom that comes. You have your own access to the Akashic records.
That's what it is really, isn't it? It's empowering people to do it themselves. It's as simple. Or to empower people that they've got the access themselves to all this knowledge. Yeah. Is that why you come through?
Channeling's the first step. We come because we can teach people better than Jonette can, because she comes from humanity. We come from a non-segregated field of oneness. And so we can bring so much more quickly through her to help transform the people that follow her. She can't get there, but when she opens to us, the field is much greater.
Some of us just aren't prepared to want to consider that when the brain dies, that there is anything more than what our eyes perceive here in this current reality. They don't want to see that, do they? So for those who don't want to look at that, can this really bring about the healing that you're suggesting it can do for many?
Then it can only bring about the healing for people who want to believe it. If they don't, they're going to be so afraid, they'll find their own place, their own way. You make your path by walking. We don't want to ever say there's a path that everyone needs to go on.
You make your path by walking. Yeah. And yeah. And you mentioned that as well, kind of, there's a passage in one of the books that you brought through as well, that really, I'm going to personify it, probably get it wrong, so that's, you can correct us, but law of attraction, things like this, is it really what's best for us? If we have an idea of what we want, if we are so fixated on it and don't allow it just to be,
then we're limiting it. It is so much better for you to feel the energy of what you want. You want a red car. Well, instead of being fixated on that particular red car, be fixated on the energy of joy driving, or being joyful all the time, or being happy. And that energy is now. The red car's in the future. We can't do anything about the future, but if we bring the outcome, emotion, and energy into us now, then maybe it's not a red car. Maybe it's a trip overseas and we keep our same old car. We can't know, and we shouldn't limit it by being too fixated. So what we say is, have your dreams and visions, but hold them lightly. Hold them in an open hand. So if they need to blow away and get organized, they can. Don't hold what you want like this.
Well, if it seems sometimes like you're just not in control of any manifestation, that nothing's working.
There are those times, and that's probably when people are not grounded in their body, because they're so busy trying to make things work. If you're finding a time where nothing's working, the best thing to do is, well, what Jonette teaches, soul body fusion, but is to come back home centered, because you've lost your ability to magnetize, because you're clearly fragmented. You want to be the strongest magnet for good and what's good, even if you don't know what it is. And that magnet also deters that which is bad, moves away disease. So to be the strongest magnet you can be, you need to be happy, but you need to be present in your body. So if things aren't working, we're generally out there fighting fires and we've lost our core. Come back home.
How do you come back home?
Take a day in silent retreat. Remember to meditate, mindfulness, garden, walk, stop fighting fires and stop living here. Your heart's the eternal gateway, and it's where the answers come. The answers don't come here. And also, it's important to get out of the emotions. When everything's not working, you get into blame and guilt and woe is me. Well, those energies are not the kind of magnet you want to have pulling more into your life. You've got to reset the magnet.
Will you ever come through anybody else in the future when you're not working with Jonette?
Probably. We don't know. We are here in service to humankind, and we will.
Why this timeline? Why now? If you could have chosen, can you choose any timeline to come through?
Of course. We absolutely can come anytime. This is our first time working with humans. We came now, as we said before, this is a nexus. This is an important time that humanity is getting off of a destruction timeline onto more quantum, more impossibly beautiful timelines. So humanity is picking from far greater possibilities than it ever did before. And we're here to push humanity to pick for even greater possibilities.
So there would have been no point in going to a future timeline?
The future is unwritten. And what's so now is that humanity, the bulk of potential of humanity is moving from a linear timeline when you can have this or that to a quantum timeline when you can have impossible things, impossible futures that you can't even imagine.
But you say you come from out of time.
Yes, so we can come anytime.
But to go to what I would call the 22nd century, maybe, right, of my timeline, you could go there?
There's no there yet, because it's unwritten.
But out of time, then this was the only written one.
The only time that is accessible in our relationship is this time.
Right.
Because humanity is so nonlinear, there's not one. If we went to 2200, it wouldn't be the same time that when humanity reaches it, you would be there, because you're changing so unexpectedly.
But you could have seen you could see a potential.
We can see potentials. We could see potentials now that humanity has averted disaster.
What am I up to in the future then, potentially?
We don't see that.
Is that bank balance looking good? Yeah.
We told Jonette we never do personal readings because we're much more quantum. She can do personal readings.
Yeah, no, it's just a joke. Yeah. But it is all there. You could access it if you wanted to.
You could access if you wanted to.
Well, that's a good thing.
Because you're the creator of it. Your accessing it would probably create it. So you don't go visit a future timeline that's already there. You create it. So you could decide what you want your future timeline to be and then go visit it.
Oh, so if I said, right, I would like it to be this, I could go visit that.
Go visit that and see what the energy is and see if that is so. Because the this you think you want might not be the this you want. But if you go with the energy, I want this because I want fulfilled, I want happy, I want leisure, then take those energies to the future and plant them there.
If it's really what you would think would give you that feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And always ask for this or better.
So you can plant it there. Once you could say,
you can plant things into your future.
That's
yes.
different. That's quite cool.
You're much more quantum than you know.
But without even if you're going to plant it, that would be without the expectations of what that's going to be.
It should be energetically. It should be light seeds that you plant, so that you don't know what they're going to form, what garden they pop into, but you know it'll be beautiful, light-filled, helpful for humanity, love-filled.
But if that future really wants to happen, say it's a future event that you're planting that, or maybe not, maybe you plant something, but what if there's a future event that so wants to happen because it's for the best for you? Can it ripple into the past and cause you to go in a direction that...
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good point. The future and the past aren't linear. They're not connected. Your future can cause your past to change.
What normally causes something to ripple that much?
The power of the good of the future.
So
if there's a lot of power of good and impact in your future, it's going to ripple back and change what you decided to do at 16, or change that you decided to learn to work with cameras. That's already happened.
So when things are turning to crap and everything's just going wrong for some people, something may be actually coming in from some future timeline
to disrupt what they thought they were doing. Disruption almost always precedes major spiritual breakthroughs. There's often a breakdown to give room and to fracture that which was in place before, so that the pieces can be reorganized into a new life. So you cannot, it seems like things are breaking apart. You don't know until the other side of the tunnel.
So even though we said in this conversation, well, we didn't say, but it was advised that, you know, nothing's set completely, that we're always changing our future. There is something to say that the future is really there. And yes, it's changing, but some of these bigger events happening, they can come back. They can change.
Yes, and don't think too much about past and future as different timelines. They're really all different perspectives of the now.
Yes. Right. Because it's... Right. Yeah. That makes sense. How many times has that happened to me then?
Probably it happens to humans much more than they know. The idea of picking up the phone and calling an old friend might change everything about your life.
Or cool. Yeah, right. Or vice versa.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
You really, when you work in these quantum fields more and more, the future does cause the present. The highest future does cause the present.
The highest calling of the future.
And it could feel like it caused the past.
Yeah. Who's in charge then?
Allness is in charge. There's no who. The intelligence of the universe is embedded within all of the universe. There's no central command. The universe itself is intelligent. Creation itself is intelligent. The who is you, it's everyone, it's a flower, it's a rabbit.
Where does confusion come from with not knowing which way to turn then?
Confusion usually comes because humans are trying to make their decision through their mind, and they've lost the felt sense of their heart being their guiding light. If humans could be back in touch first with their body, then with their heart, they would sense what to do rather than trying to think it.
What do you do if you've lost the connection to the feeling of the heart?
Meditate and center on the heart. Give yourself quiet time.
And then the voice may come through.
It may not always be a voice.
No, it's different for everyone.
It could be a knowing like, I need to do this now.
Well, that sounds so simple and so right.
It is simple. The universe wouldn't make the secret codes to success secret.
If we think it, can we bring it into being?
Thinking alone will not bring anything into being. It's got to be connected with the heart of the power of the heart. The heart is your magnet. Thinking is not magnetic. Loving, feeling as if it's already there.
So this message sounds very much like some of the aspects that was in a human movie called The Secret a few years ago.
And that is very true. It's not all there is, but it's a very good beginning to think about the world.
Yeah, because that was very much orientated towards money, money, money.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that, is there?
No.
But it doesn't bring happiness.
If it does, then it's fine.
It does for some people, doesn't it?
Yes.
There are people on this earth where happiness is money. Cotton.
And generally it's the freedom that money gives. But sometimes it's money itself.
But we can't all have that though, can we? In
this world, no. But in this other world that we see humanity can create, there is abundance and flow. There's sunshine when you need sunshine. That it's a much more magical world. Humans have lived in this structured, smaller world. And that's one way to organize a universe. But there are other universes.
Are you saying that potential of where we can head towards is that world?
Yes.
Oh, I want to go there now.
Yes. And when you feel like you're there now, you feel that wondrousness and the love of creation and the love of life, then you are there and you become a bridge.
So you're not saying we're going to bring this into our reality in the future. You're saying you can have it now.
You must feel it now, and then it gets stronger and stronger as it pours through you. You become a portal, and you pour it through into your life, but then into all of human consciousness.
Could one promote that to others?
Yes, usually by living that yourself strongly. That's the strongest promotion. Being light, being happy, and people say, I want more of that.
That's kind of like promoting channeling, though.
Doesn't matter what it is. You could be promoting Easter baskets if it's light and happy, and people want more of that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with bunnies. And that's what some of these self-help gurus are doing. That's some of these self-motivational speakers.
It's a start, because they're getting people to take responsibility and noticing that their thoughts and feelings do make a difference, that everything isn't outside them.
But they miss out the consciousness side, don't they?
But they're the first door. People need to get happy, need to be self-motivated and self-responsible, and those self-help gurus teach that. But then they might find more and more, that it's bigger than just them having things. It's about a world that evolves into happiness.
A world that evolves into happiness.
Yes.
Missing link being from a, so if you're a self-help motivational speaker, to evolve into a world of happiness, the self-help motivational speaker will say they're doing that already.
They are. And that is the beginning. But self-help is something just for self. You're really so much greater than the self that gets that help. Then it's about expanding the self.
Into?
The greater one. Ultimately, oneness, allness. A connection, an interrelatedness with all things. You can still live as individuals, but when you sense the interrelatedness that some of the masters talk about, some of the native shaman talk about, it changes your context to reality, because you're living an individual life out of an expression of oneness. And you take it lighter and more joyful.
So the consciousness side, by looking at that, which is missed out sometimes on the self-help, actually what you're doing is, yeah, you're ticking some of the boxes, aren't you? The missing boxes, or you're uncovering some other part of it, which is, but maybe the person's not ready for that though. Maybe the person that they, as an example, that's come across the self-help motivator, isn't ready for the next step. But then they won't come into your path if you're promoting it.
No, then they will stay in their step until they're ready. There is no time limit on evolution or enlightenment. Time is flexible. Those of you who are in a hurry will reach it faster. Those of you who need more time, time will grow.
So I've got this in my simple human experience head right now, because I'm living this human experience. My head can be a little bit simple sometimes because of it. That self-help motivational speaker, that person that they're helping, gets them to a great place.
Yes.
But there is something further that could be explored from there. And that further exploration of their consciousness helps them to see that there are no limits for nothing. No, the motivational speaker was teaching that.
It helps them see. So the motivational speaker helps them get the things that make them happy. But ultimately, your happiness is coming from outside yourself. Ultimately, happiness must be self-generated and have nothing to do with the things. So it's almost as if the things that make you happy are the lower parts on Maslow's hierarchy.
Yes.
And then you get to self-actualization and the things fall away. So if you keep doing the secret or still go with the things, you're losing the self-responsibility to be happy irrespective of your life. That's enlightenment.
So you may turn what are self-fulfilling multimillionaires into the next evolution, which is a monk basically, of not wanting nothing. Their home is empty. There's not even seats in their home. They've not wanted or desired anything more.
There's very few who make that leap.
Oh, well, I was hoping that could be me, but yeah, okay, that makes human sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for keeping it simple right now.
You are welcome.
Oh gosh, wow. I've wanted to promote channeling. I wanted to, I know I'm doing that through this documentary, but there's part of me is like, nah, there's something more.
We think there'll be something more for you. We think this is a gate opener.
And whatever that more is, my last name, believe it or not, it's got to come from me.
It'll come from an interaction between you and your path and what you're doing. And the next door will open up and it will feel brighter than the one you're walking now. You can't plan ahead. You just take the next brightest stone every time you step.
But does a human life as well have to do things sometimes that it doesn't always find fun?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you want a great meal, you either have to earn the money to have someone else cook it or cook it yourself.
Right.
So there are things humans have to do. But do it with the same light and love that you do your passion. Again, we can't separate the things we don't like and say, I don't like this part of my life. It's, I like my life, so I'm going to do this with love as well.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Do you, having this interaction with me now, wish that you could have a human experience? Or?
No, we are so happy we're not human.
You are.
But humans are the most entertaining consciousness possible because they're unexpected. And when you get them in groups, what happens is totally unexpected. We are most surprised, not by the density of our human classes, but we are most surprised by the rapidity with which they grasp new fields of understanding. It's beyond their ability to comprehend it, but they grasp it, or what's that word, they grog it, without necessarily getting it intellectually. They take it on, and we're amazed at the speed with which human consciousness is evolving. You don't see it when you read the papers, but when Jonette can look at human consciousness and see its health and its vibrancy, she's very hopeful about even these human situations.
I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And do you think sometimes us humans can be so distracted from, there's so many distractions, isn't there, from what you're discussing now, which is the evolution of the spiritual part of us. You know, I mean, we get, even the spiritual people are distracted.
Distraction is what Earth is about. It's fine. We don't want humans to be non-human. Humans are distracted. Humans have
But most spiritual
egos.
people want to be non-human. They don't want to embrace anything. You start talking about sex, they run a mile away and say, you know, it's just ludicrousy sometimes I see in this field.
Spirituality is to make the human experience more rich.
Not the avoidance of anything.
Never the avoidance.
But isn't it true that there's a lot of like, oh my God, that's too dark, I can't go near that, or that's not high vibration enough, go away from me. And it's like, well...
And if your vibration is high enough, you can change the darkness. It cannot hurt you. But if you're afraid of it, your fear can crumble your light.
Even horror films are okay for me on this
Then
level.
they're fine.
Well, it's the avoidance again of not enjoying entertainment. I came here, I think, to have a human experience. I don't want to start putting on white robes and prancing around with harps and everything else. I mean, it's just
exactly. Live life to the fullest. Make that path by walking or running.
But not at the expense of hurting others, though.
That is always the golden rule.
You're glad I put that in there. I said that, didn't I? But then again, you know, we can fall on that sometimes, can't we? You know, sometimes we do make mistakes, don't we? We do screw up.
Of course.
And when we screw it up really, really badly, is there always a way forward?
Always. There's do-overs, and that's why there's multiple lives.
Oh, you mean we have to come back for it?
To learn it a different way.
Do we ever come back in this same way, in this same timeline? Could we repeat 1985 again? Or
No, because then it wouldn't be a repeat. It would just be a replay.
what if you could... Well,
You cannot come back into the same timeline. You cannot put your foot in the same river. It's changed.
could you do that through a life review, though?
You could look at your life through your life review, and you can forgive your mistakes.
Would it be like as though you're living this now? Would it be, if I have a life, when I do have a life review...
It's more like a video.
Is it... Right. Would it feel as real as this?
No, because you are, right now, you are not an observer, you are a subject of the life. When you have your life review, you're a witness. That makes, the perspective makes all the difference.
Now, if someone else on this documentary says something a little bit different to this...
We're sure they do.
Oh, yes. Which way do I turn? Who is right?
There is no right. It's what feels good for you. Does that explanation make you open and expanded? Or does that explanation make you worried or confused? How does it feel? Does it increase your clarity? So go by your relationship to the message, not does the message itself have truth? Does it have truth in relationship to you? Is it the best for you to understand right now? Truth always has a small t, never a big T.
I can see why religion is so addictive. At least it's one truth.
Because they give you a truth, yes indeed. It's the easy way.
Okay, so yeah. So in 10 years, that's where I'm heading now. I can see, but it's very addictive in that sense because it teaches no self-responsibility to your own path.
People want safety.
We love it. Us humans love it. And even in this conversation in the future, if this is going to be included in some form, right? I'll look back at this. Probably one day I will do, even in a life review, right? What do I know then, looking back, did I know from now in this truth thing? It's very confusing. Or maybe is that my excuse to want to make it confusing?
Confusion is a product of the mind and not the heart. Move into your heart, develop a felt sense with what feels right at the moment. Don't let truth ever be stable or ever be forever. Just say, this truth feels right for now. When you listen to someone else, that truth may feel right for now. Putting them together and cataloging them is not important.
But if I applied that in the science basis of this planet, our science wouldn't have moved on for us to progress to where we are, right? It has to be repeatable for it to move on, right? For construction, for things to happen. But out of this reality, it seems that that's not the case. In this reality, it's the case that it's repeatable, otherwise goodbye to it. But in this conversation, and where our consciousness tends to move on from where it came from, it's not the same, is it? The rules are different.
The rules are different. You cannot use science to predict nor confirm that which is spiritual, because it's not measurable, and science is, first of all, a measurable.
Did we make it so non-measurable? Is it so tucked away that so we have this human experience? I mean, is it coming through this person's body right now like this as I speak to you, so that it's so only few dare go to the door and ask because our soul wanted the contract where it shut it down, not supposed to know because you be here now with this human experience, and only those who really want to dive deeper get to watch something like this? Or
No, why would this not be part of the human experience? The human experience doesn't need to be a box. This could all be part of a greater human experience. It is part of a greater human experience.
But it's not
opening
like,
the doors is part of that experience.
Yes, but the reality that you speak about where you come from, it's not daily for most people in our face. It's the reality that's here now that I'm observing through these eyes. That's here, the present dominant one. the reality you come from, it's like it doesn't want to be known. It wants to be tucked away so that we get on with what we're going through now. Yet you come through. Bit of a paradox.
The realities are interwoven and they're both foundational on each other.
They're both foundational on each other. But maybe us humans haven't realized that yet, most of us.
Human growth is mostly about realization.
If we can't touch it, if we can't see it, for some people, it's not there. Where does that person... Why is that the way for most people? If it can't be seen, it can't be measured, it's just...
Because they feel safer there. They weren't here to explore or expand. And the people who are here to explore or expand must explore and expand.
But they could call themselves a microbiologist, and they could be very clever on this plane. And they would say that they are here to expand because they've gone so far with science.
That is fine, then they are expanding. We do not understand your question.
No, don't worry. No, I'm just saying from their perspective, they would say that they're expansive because they're, so clever in a sense,
Well, they are because they're being their path. And their path is to be a great microbiologist, then that's what they must be. A great singer must sing.
Yet they may be switched off to their own backside.
And who are we to say?
Wow.
The energy of happiness is more important than the energy of evolution because happiness will evolve. If someone is really happy doing their job, really happy with their religion, it is much better that they have that job and have that religion than that they try to change and become less happy.
Oh, well, okay. And there are people out there having that experience. So what is that happiness doing to the universe? What does that happiness do to the soul?
It builds a field. It builds a stronger field of happiness. It puts more vibrations of happiness in the field so that they're stronger, more magnetic, more vibrations of happiness get created, get pulled. So it becomes self-fulfilling.
But then at some point in their life, when they've lost someone that's so special to them, they might come a knocking on your door,
Then they may open up, yes.
Well, this has been a jolly good conversation, hasn't it?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to get more of an insight into the human mind.
I have a feeling that we may meet again. I don't know why.
We'll come whenever you call us. We have no fixed address. We thank you.
Thank you.